Hello 1G. This is Mr. Greg, who didn't recognise me in my garden. I thought, as I can't read you some stories in person, I would make a little video of me reading one of the books I'm allowed to read, which is one of my favourites, The Tale of Mrs Tiggy-Winkle by Beatrix Potter. Very old book, as you can see. Had it for a very long time, since I was probably about 5 or 6. Once upon a time, there was a little girl called Lucy who lived at a farm called Littletown. She was a good little girl, only she was always losing her pocket handkerchiefs. One day, little Lucy came into the farmyard crying. Oh, she did cry so. "I've lost my pocket hankin, 3 hankins and a penny. Have you seen them, Tabby Kitten?" The kitten went on washing her white paws, so Lucy asked a speckled hen, "Sally Hennypenny, have you found 3 pocket hankins?" But the speckled hen ran around into the barn, clucking, "I go barefoot, 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 I go barefoot." And then Lucy asked Cock Robin, sitting on a twig. Cock Robin looked sideways at Lucy with his bright black eye and flew over a little stile far away. Lucy climbed onto the stile and looked up the hill beyond Littletown, a hill that goes up, up into the clouds as though it had no top. And a great way up the hillside, she thought she saw some white things spread across the grass. Lucy scrambled up the hill as fast as her stout legs would carry her. I wonder if you know what the word stout means. Ask Mummy or Daddy. She ran along a steep pathway up and up until Littletown was right away down below. She could have dropped a pebble down the chimney. There she is, really high up. Presently, she came to a spring bubbling out from the hillside. Here we go. Someone had stood a tin can upon the stone to catch the water, but the water was already running over, for the can was no bigger than an egg cup. And where the sand upon the footpath was wet, there were footmarks of a very small person. Lucy ran on and on. The path ended under a big rock. The grass was short and green, and there were clothes props cut from bracken stems with lines of plaited rushes and a heap of tiny clothespins, but no pocket handkerchiefs. There was something else, a door, straight into the hill, and inside it, someone was singing. There we are. "Little white and clean, oh, with little frills between, oh, smooth and hot, red rusty spot, never there been seen, oh." Lucy knocked once, twice, and interrupted the song. A little frightened voice called out, "Who's that?" Lucy opened the door, and what do you think there was inside the hill? A nice clean kitchen, with a flagged floor and wooden beams, just like any other farm kitchen. Only the ceiling was so low that Lucy's head nearly touched it, and the pots and pans were small, and so was everything there. There was a nice, hot, singy smell, and at the table, with an iron in her hand, stood a very stout, short person, staring anxiously at Lucy. Her print gown was tucked up, and she was wearing a large apron over her striped petticoat. Her little black nose went sniffle, sniffle, snuffle, and her eyes went twinkle, twinkle, and underneath her cap, where Lucy had yellow curls, that little person had prickles. And you guess what she is yet? "Who are you?" said Lucy. "Have you seen my pocket hankins?" The little person only made a bob curtsy. "Oh yes, if you please, Mum. My name is Mrs Tiggy-Winkle. Oh yes, if you please, Mum. I'm an excellent clear starcher." And she took something out of a clothes basket and spread it on the ironing blanket. "What's that thing?" said Lucy. "That's not my pocket hankin." "Oh no, if you please, Mum. That's a little scarlet waistcoat belonging to Cock bobbin, and she ironed it and folded it and put it on one side. Then she took something else off the clothes horse. "That isn't my pinny," said Lucy. "Oh no, if you please, Mum, that's a damask tablecloth belonging to Jenny Wren. Look how it's stained with currant wine. It's very bad to wash," said Mrs Tiggy-Winkle. Mrs Tiggy-Winkle's nose went snuffle, sniffle, snuffle, and her eyes went twinkle, twinkle, and she fetched another hot iron from the fire. There she is. "There's one of my pocket hankins," cried Lucy, "and there's my pinny." Mrs Tiggy-Winkle ironed it and goffered it and shook out the frills. "Oh, that is lovely," said Lucy. "And what are those long yellow things with fingers like gloves?" "Oh, that's a pair of stockings belonging to Sally Hennypenny. Look how she's worn the heels out with scratching in the yard. She'll very soon go barefoot," said Mrs Tiggy-Winkle. "Why, there's another hankersniff, but it isn't mine, it's red." "Oh no, if you please, Mum, that one belongs to old Mrs Rabbit, and it did so smell of onions. I've had to wash it separately. I can't get out the smell." "There's another one of mine," said Lucy. "What are those funny little white things?" "That's a pair of mittens belonging to Tabby Kitten. I only have to iron them and she washes them herself." "There's my last pocket hankin," said Lucy. "And what are you dipping into the basin of starch?" "They're little Dickie's shirt fronts belonging to Tom Tittlemouse. Most terrible particular," said Mrs Tiggy-Winkle. "Now, I've finished my ironing. I'm going to air some clothes." "What are those dear, soft, fluffy things?" said Lucy. "Oh, those are woolly coats belonging to the little lambs at Skeg Hill." "Will their jackets take off?" asked Lucy. "Oh, yes, if you please, Mum. Look at the sheep mark on the shoulder. And here's one marked for Gatesgarth. And 3 that come from Littletown. They're always marked at washing," said Mrs Tiggy-Winkle. And she hung up all sorts and sizes of clothes, small brown coats for mice, and one velvety black moleskin waistcoat, and a red-tailed coat with no tail belonging to Squirrel Nutkin, and a very much shrunk blue jacket belonging to Peter Rabbit, and a petticoat not marked. That had got lost in the washing, and at last the basket was empty. Then Mrs Tiggy-Winkle made tea, a cup for herself and a cup for Lucy. They sat before the fire on a bench and looked sideways at one another. Mrs Tiggy-Winkle's hand holding the teacup was very, very brown and very, very wrinkly with the soap suds, and all through her gown and her cap there were hairpins sticking wrong end out, so that little Lucy didn't like to sit too near her. When they had finished tea, they tied up the clothes in bundles, and Lucy's pocket handkerchiefs were folded up inside her clean pinny and fastened with a silver safety pin. And then they made up the fire with turf and came out and locked the door and hid the key under the doorsill. Then away down the hill they trotted, Lucy and Mrs Tiggy-Winkle with bundles of clothes. All the way down the path little animals came out of the fern to meet them. The very first that they met were Peter Rabbit and Benjamin Bunny. And she gave them their nice clean clothes, and all the little animals and birds were so very much obliged to dear Mrs Tiggy-Winkle. There they are, look, saying thank you very much. So that at the bottom of the hill, when they came to the stile, there was nothing left to carry except Lucy's one little bundle. Lucy scrambled up the stile with the bundle in her hand, and then she turned to say good night and to thank the washerwoman. But what a very odd thing! Mrs Tiggy-Winkle had not waited either for thanks or for the washing bill. She was running up the hill, and where was her white frilled cap and her shawl, and her gown and her petticoat? and how small she had grown, and how brown, and covered with prickles. Why, Mrs Tiggy-Winkle was nothing but a hedgehog. Now, some people say that the little Lucy had been asleep on the stile, but then how could she have found 3 clean pocket handkins and a penny pinned with a silver safety pin? And besides, I have seen that door into the back of the hill called Cat Bell's, and besides, I am very well acquainted with dear Mrs Tiggy-Winkle. That's the end. I wonder if there are any more Beatrix Potter stories that you would like to hear another time. Bye for now.